The Philadelphia Phillies were just swept by the New York Mets in one of their more lifeless series losses of the season. But the troubles at Citi Field continue to become more obvious, with it now extending to 10 consecutive games that they have lost in the Mets' home ballpark. I'm here to proclaim that something strange is going on up there in New York, and I think that the MLB needs to take a bit of a look at it. I'm not outright accusing the Mets of cheating here, but I am saying that there is something going on in between those Citi Field walls. I do want to reflect on all that, as well as give this Phillies team a little bit of a wake-up call. That this type of series loss commands a slap in the face, a kick in the butt, a wake-up that if you guys want to be World Series contenders, then act like it, damn it. That is how I feel after this series. But let's get right into things right here. And I do want to start with a couple trends that are going on Citi Field. So to start off with, and this screen grab coming from before the game now, as it is now extended to the last 10 meetings at Citi Field, but you can see some pretty jarring numbers difference between these two opponents here. The Mets, of course, 9-0 over that stretch, batting .374 with runners in scoring position. They have 28 extra base hits tallied, 5.8 runs per game, and a .839 OPS, compared to the Phillies there, who have not won a single one of these matchups, batting .214 with batting average with runners in scoring position, just 12 extra base hits tallied, 2.6 runs per game, and a .562 OPS. Now, the bigger story here is this is extending, that we do have that's something special about the Phillies blowing a potential 7-game division lead. I'm not there yet. We will circle back to this, but they've lost 10 in a row at Citi Field against the Mets. They are 13-4, or the Mets are 13-4 in their last 17 matches overall. And to highlight this a little further, the Phillies have a 6-24 record in their last 30 games at Citi Field, that including the postseason there. They've also lost 10 straight games with that current streak being active. The longest home winning streak versus the Phillies since the 1984-85 season. Yes, it was bad. And that is especially the case based on how lifeless that the Mets have looked for a good portion of time. Now, granted, is it possible that maybe the Phillies bats just went cold against a team that has lost 16 of their past 23, against a team that has looked like an inferior opponent for the larger part of the season? Sure, that is absolutely a possibility. But something did seem odd about this series. And why was that exactly? Well, after game one, in which Christopher Sanchez uncharacteristically gave up 8 hits and 5 earned runs in just 5.1 innings pitched there, that Bryce Harper had an interesting quote that raised my eyebrows here. He said he suspected that the Mets had a tip on Christopher Sanchez, saying, quote, "The Mets are so good at it. I think they're one of the best teams in the game on getting guys and getting tips." And to add to that a little further, Jason Stark, one of the more widely respected MLB reporters across the sport here, hopped on 97.5 The Fanatic right here in Philadelphia this week. And what did Jason Stark have to say? Said, quote, "I don't think the Mets are just hot, or that the Phillies are just cold, or that there is a curse. I think that the Mets have tells on every Phillies reliever and know what is coming." Bryce alluded to this the other night with Christopher Sanchez. I honestly think that he's not just throwing that stuff out there. I think that it is a real thing. Now, there is a fine line in baseball between, tipping pitches, creating advantage, stealing signs, and outright cheating. And I'm not sure where exactly on this overall spectrum the New York Mets do fall. This is what I can present, is the raw facts of things, that we saw how this series went down. That if I'm to dive into the standings, I do think it is important to note the New York Mets this season, at home, 44-24, 20 games above 500. When playing on the road, 28-37, 9 games below. A little bit interesting there. That is a pretty wide discrepancy. And if you want to compare against the rest of the National League, that, yeah, sure, the Phillies play better at home as well, but not by that margin. Look down the rest of the league here. Pretty comparable for the Miami Marlins there. The Atlanta Braves, about the same, a little bit worse on the road for sure. And the Washington Nationals, bad all across the board here. The New York Mets, that is a quite stark difference there. And what stood out to me more so than anything is I've never seen a team sit on pitches the way it felt like with the New York Mets. Now, Jason Stark, if you do go and listen to this entire interview, reflected back to last year's postseason. How guys like Jeff Hoffman posting a 40.50 ERA after being a sub-3 guy for the entirety of the season. Orion Kirkry and Matt Strahm combining for over a 7 ERA after each being 2.3 ERA or below guys for the duration of the regular season. Jose Alvarado tumbling, falling apart after being an elite arm for this Phillies team across the regular season. Something does not quite add up. Now, who knows what the real logic is here? Could there be trash cans bagging? Could there be a feed coming into the pitch comp? All these things I do think are on the table. But at the end of the day, if you're the Philadelphia Phillies, this has to be a look yourself in the mirror moment. That you just got dog walked by a team that you're better than, straight up. That if you want to look at yourself as legitimate World Series contenders the way that they act like they should, then you have to play like that on the baseball diamond. And that was not the case whatsoever this series. Kyle Schwarber, who's been unbelievable from start to finish. I don't believe he had a hit that series. Certainly did not have a home run, and that streak is absolutely snapped. Bryce Harper, after he took off the Mets rivalry edition gloves, which took quite a bit of heat. Sure, showed up in game 2 a little bit, showed a little bit of life there, but that was not the Bryce Harper series that this Phillies team needs. The pitching staff across the board, Taijuan Walker, we'll take what we can get. But did Jesus Luzardo battle through the adversity that was evident in that game between the poor umpiring, the Juan Soto saga, everything else going down in that game? Felt like he got rattled a little bit. Christopher Sanchez, we're asking you to be the ace, that you are the game 1 starter for a playoff perspective. These are the games that you have got to show up for. And he didn't. That was one of his worst starts of the season there. Now, could all these be all connected thoughts here? Could there be more factors at play than just what is going down on the field? Absolutely. I think that is a legitimate possibility. But if you're the Philadelphia Phillies right now, you cannot be counting on that. Who knows if there is cheating or something nefarious going on in the Citi Field walls right now. But what I am here to say is that version of the Philadelphia Phillies that showed up for this series is not one that is taking home a World Series. If this team wants to consider themselves legitimate championship threats, then you cannot have that baseline of poor. That the wide range between this team at its best and this team at its worst is simply far more significant than what a true championship threat should look like. We saw this team look like the best version of the Philadelphia Phillies against the Seattle Mariners just this week, man. That I was impressed with the response by this team. That they get the news that Zack Wheeler has a blood clot, isn't coming back this season, shut down for the year, legitimate life-threatening type of stuff going on. And what happened? This team woke up. They responded. They picked up their brother. They won 3 straight games against one of the best teams in the American League. Then come back against a heated rivalry, against the team that knocked you out of the playoffs last year, against the team that gave almost $1 billion to Juan Soto in free agency for him to kick dirt around the batter's box and call timeout whenever he feels like on the field. And they just did not show it, man. They did not have that punch, that drive, that hustle, the what you want to see from a team that is heading down the home stretch of the season. There are 29 games left remaining in the regular season. They have 4 more against the New York Mets directly here. And to pull up the standings once again, this is not a panic that they're going to blow the NL East. They still have a 4-game lead over this Mets team and directly control that destiny. That if you want to win the division overall here, you control it completely. You win 2 of those games, I think it's probably out of reach from the Mets' perspective. But the Phillies got to go there and take it. Nobody's giving it to this team, and sometimes they act like that is going to be the case. That cannot be the mindset or the outlook moving forward. This is an important final stretch of the season. I do not want to see this team limp into the playoffs. We need to see them earn that overall, get that bye spot, get to the 2 seed, make sure you keep it. That currently they have the exact same record as the Los Angeles Dodgers there. If you're talking about a postseason matchup with this New York Mets team, you better believe that this last regular season stretch should mean a little bit to want to avoid that. So let me know what you guys think in the comments there. Are you buying into the theory that maybe something nefarious is going on in Citi Field? Are you fired up? Are you mad at this Phillies team for the way that they showed up on the field? I think all responses are appropriate. So let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments. Appreciate you guys for tuning in as always, and it just has to be better from this Phillies team. Thank you guys once again. Make sure you're hitting that subscribe button. Drop a like on this video here. I'll be back. Talk to you next time. Peace.